because we don't know him. You look at his background, does he have a criminal record? I mean, he's
Tiger Woods.
perfectly clean. He's a normal guy. He puts all of his energy and his time into golf from what we see. But because we don't know him, there was such a rush to judgment on this is a man who's got a flaw. He's got issues. Who's around him? Is anybody in his corner? And I thought that was very interesting because just looking at the coverage alone with nothing else, I thought he had a serious problem. We just have no idea at this point, really, because we don't know.
And I would just say quickly, I know that there is a narrative out there of paying the price for genius and isolation. You're alone in the tower of your own making. You're a Howard Hughes figure. To my experiences with Tiger Woods, that just isn't the case. He is somebody who does have friends. Now, some of those friends are on the payroll, which instantly complicates things. But I can tell you just very quickly, a year ago doing a profile with Ricky Fowler, we get in the car, the phone rings, it's Tiger Woods. Hey, what time are we coming over? What time are you watching the NCAA tournament? That doesn't seem to be somebody that's absolutely isolated and alone.
I do wish more of those friends would speak up for him, though, at this point.
But we don't have the right to know him as well as we want to.
Right.
I mean, he has
Exactly.
lived there with that image, answered your questions to the extent he felt he wanted to, peeling back whatever he wanted. And now into this void, we all pour our expectations onto the story. All right, that's the big story. Underreported. Let's turn to an interesting case in college football.
That's right. Kansas State coach Bill Schneider. And, I just want to say as background, and you and I talked about this, he recently had some treatment for cancer, but that's kind of a sidelight to this story. He has a player on his team named Corey Sutton, wide receiver, and Corey desperately wants to get out. Feels he was promised to start as soon as he walked in. Didn't really happen for him. Didn't really catch a lot of passes, kind of rode the bench. So he went to the coach and he said, look, can you let me out of this? According to him, coach said, I can't make you stay if you need to go. So he a list of 35 schools, some D2, some FCS, no real opponents of K-State, and the coach said no to all 35. So that obviously conjures up a lot of things for the player. People say, well, what happens? Can he just leave? He can leave, but he doesn't have a lot of means, and without that approval, he can't get financial aid somewhere else. So he's stuck. Coach Schneider came back with this response to all this, basically to say, well, it's a handshake deal, and if one guy leaves, then won't a lot of other guys go? No real reason as to why he can't leave, which invited comparisons from the player of, hey, this is kind of a slave master situation.
His words, by the way.
Right, the player's words. Now, in all of this, what I think is interesting is, if Schneider promised that he could go, then I think this is something that needs to be covered more. Because basically, you're saying, look, can't do anything about it. I'm following the rules. But we ask these players to honor their commitments to amateurism, to honor these schools. Where is the honoring of them when they want to do what any other student in the school can do?
Gosh forbid we have free agency in college football.
Right, exactly.
That could be a damaging thing. All right, let's talk about some science.
Well, I think this story deserves more coverage, but a study released this week, and it was reported on in the New York Times by a medical correspondent, not a sports correspondent, Lawrence Altman. The study suggests that it is possible, perhaps, to detect CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and of course, at this point, we've known it only to be diagnosable post-mortem, possible to detect it by measuring speech patterns in athletes over a long period of time. And in this study, which wasn't a huge study, it's not ironclad scientifically, they went back and studied some athletes who've been in the public eye, that they have at least 30,000 words of transcripts of interviews with over the course of many years, and measured how quickly they spoke, what kinds of words they used, what kind of sentence structure, all that at an earlier period of time compared to more recent period of time. And they were able, in their minds, to establish some kind of connection between head trauma and the slowing of speech. And there was a control group as well, where they did not see this effect.
How big was the group?
10 athletes.
10 players, right?
10 players at different positions. They did not name names.
But 7 of the 10 were quarterbacks.
That's right.
I mean, we're all equal in science if we're laying on the table, but the quarterbacks, if they get the headlines.
Group.
Right.
But this is big in a lot of ways. This is why it's big. It's big because maybe it will lead to a breakthrough in determining CTE before you're dead, which would possibly lead to better ways of treating it. Also big because it opens up the possibility that people are going to start judging athletes by how quickly they're speaking and how intelligibly they're speaking.
It's fascinating. Underreported story. I'm going to go with Venezuela, which is a failed state in South America. Venezuelans, behind Dominicans, are the single largest, the second largest actually, group of players in Major League Baseball, and players now increasingly gaining their voice to speak out about the events in their homeland. We spoke with Frankie Cervelli of the Pirates this week on Outside the Lines. Marley Rivera of our staff has done incredible reporting with Latin players about this. They've had 62 people killed in protests of late. They've had a judge recently killed. It's a failed state. And I asked Cervelli, would you be safe going home? He said, no, 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 no. These players have finally come through their fear, finally been in a position to talk out about what's going on in their homeland, and it is a daunting message that the world, they are praying the world will take notice. Taking notice.
Well, a much lighter underreported story. Let's stop for a second because I think we want to break into programming. Albert Pujols is coming up to bat.
Really?
Who's Albert Pujols again?
Not so much.
Not so much. Albert Pujols pursuing 600 home runs, which once upon a time did create let's stop down, station break, no matter what we're doing and see what happens at this at bat. Is anybody paying attention? And Pujols himself wondering about what seems to be the apathy in stadiums where he's been pursuing what was once a pretty hallowed mark.
The numbers have all changed. They've all changed.